Hello, everybody. This is Martha Alter Hines with Living the One Light. So I am in this video feeling called to talk about the upcoming full moon at 6 degrees of Aries that is happening on September 29th, 2023, and just less than a couple of weeks from when I'm recording this. I'm recording this on Monday, September 18th. And so there are some really, really, really beautiful, powerful, very strong, I would say, energies associated with this full moon. But what's especially interesting to me, and I really want to drop into this conversation around this full moon as actually, in a sense, a beginning of a conversation of a longer term set of energies that are being highlighted on this full moon, but that are actually also going to be very active in 2024. And some of these themes have already been active. So this full moon is happening at 6 degrees, 0 minutes of Aries on September 29th, 2023, which means that the sun is at 6 degrees, 0 minutes of Libra on the full moon. And we just in July of 2023 have had the nodes of the moon move into Libra and Aries also, right? So we already have this Libra Aries energy that's very alive, very active, very that's one of the biggest themes right now in general, maybe the biggest theme, however you can quantify that. But so the full moon certainly will also be highlighting this Libra Aries axis. And we are just a couple of weeks after this full moon, we're moving into the eclipse season. And this full moon, is so close to almost being an eclipse, but it's not quite an eclipse, even though the moon and the sun will be in the same sign as the nodes. And typically, not typically, always, an eclipse is when the sun and the moon are very close enough to the nodes of the moon to qualify as an eclipse. In this case, it doesn't, but it's heading there. So I definitely already am feeling the energetic of the eclipse season moving in me, in the world. And this full moon for sure is it's like we're sliding into home plate in a way, energetically, because it's just on a logical level. I mean, it's a lot of the same themes, but even energetically, I feel like it's almost like kind of helping us ease our way or dive down into the themes of these eclipses. In addition, though, what I really am feeling called to drop into, because this is very alive for me and it's really interesting and going to be very, very, very alive in 2024 also, is a whole set of other things happening on this eclipse. In particular with some Kuiper Belt objects and with Pholus, which Pholus is one of the centaurs. So I'm gonna go through kind of systematically with all of this and then drop into what I'm feeling in all of it. First, I guess I'll show you the chart so I can do the facts first, and then I'll drop into the meaning of it to me. And I will also say, actually, before I share the chart, Heather Ensworth talked a lot about these similar themes in her own interpretation, which I definitely highly recommend. It's a little different from my interpretation, but I love Heather and love her interpretation. She talks a lot about these same themes in a video she did, which I will link here, for her video on the full moon in Capricorn, which occurred this past July. So yeah, I'm going to name some similar themes that she talked about in more depth in her video. And yet where I'm feeling drawn to go with my interpretation is definitely, I don't disagree with what she's saying. And yet there's another layer I feel with it. So I'm going to I'll drop into my version and then highly recommend also listening to her video if you want to hear a little more about her take, and she has some more details in there. on each of these Kuiper Belt objects in particular that I probably won't go into all of those details here. But okay, now for the chart. And if this chart is way too busy, you can ignore it. I'm working with a lot of these things at the moment, and yeah, so I have a lot of things on here. But okay, so the full moon itself is going to be, like I said, at 6 degrees and 0 minutes of Aries. The sun is at 6 degrees and 0 minutes of Libra. You know, as always, there's so much going on that I could focus on, but I'm really feeling called to focus on particular things. So that is what I will do. So this full moon is going to be conjunct the Kuiper Belt object Salacia, number 1. I love, love, love Salacia so much. I would definitely recommend, if you're interested to learn more about her, I had a really wonderful conversation with Kelly Hunter about Salacia in the video we did on cosmic couples, which I will also link with this video. Yeah, that was part of the Rebecoming the One symposium, and I loved that conversation, and I think we both had a lot of ahas during that conversation about Salacia. So I'll talk a little more about Celestia in a minute. So I'm just going to name, but first I'm just naming what's drawing my attention. So yeah, the full moon will be conjunct Celestia. Then in addition, the moon and the sun are going to be squaring Quaoar, another Kuiper Belt object, and Pholus, and then a little more loosely Ixion, or Ixion, depending on how. I'm not actually sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, but anyway, I'm going to say Ixion. You can say Ixion or correct me. I'm not sure how it's supposed to be. Also, at the time of this full moon, Mars is going to still be in Libra, but it'll be getting very close to the south node of the moon. Okay, so, and like I said, there, you know, bazillion other things going on that I could focus on, but this is particularly alive for me because I have been looking at all of the transits of 2024, and so I'm actually creating a guide which I will be sharing with you all, anybody who wants it. I'm going to be doing a workshop in December on the astrology of 2024, and this guide will come for free with that workshop, but also I'm just going to be selling it for not a super large amount of money before then. As soon as it's done, it's virtually done. So that is coming up, and in that guide, what I've done is I've gone through all the main planets, all the asteroids that I personally work with, all the Kuiper Belt objects that I personally am called to, which is a lot of them, as you can see, and Sedna, and the centaurs, the 4 main centaurs: Chiron, Cheroklo, Pholus, and Nessus. Okay, so then also in that guide, what I did is I went through and I highlighted what astrological themes are particularly seeming very alive in 2024, and I made a list of those. There's about, I think, 10 or 12-ish, and the one that really, really, really is sticking out to me is that in the middle-ish of, I want to say August, September of 2024, the nodes of the moon are going to come to the point where the full moon is going to be in, the one coming up on September 29th, 2023, the one we're about to have. So again, I'll show you this chart. So you can see right now, the north node of the moon is at 24 degrees of Aries. the full moon we're about to have on September 29th is going to be at 6 degrees of Aries. So you can see that, it's an 18-degree difference between the North Node and the moon, which is why it's not quite an eclipse. Yet the nodes of the moon move this direction. So and the nodes take about 18 months to move through a sign. So in about a year-ish, the North Node of the moon will be around where the full moon, upcoming full moon, is going to be. And the South Node of the moon is going to be around where the sun is going to be on this full moon, right? So Salacia, which is going to be conjunct the full moon on September 29th, is again a Kuiper Belt object. It moves very slowly. So when the nodes of the moon come to the same part of the zodiac where the full moon is going to be, that's right around when Salacia will be conjunct the North Node of the moon. And in addition, this Quaoar Pholus Ixion conjunction also is moving very, very slowly. And so right around the time when the nodes come to this area of the zodiac, the nodes will also be getting squared by Quaoar, Pholus, and Ixion, and actually also at one point Ceres. So that whole configuration of Quaoar, Pholus, Ixion, and Ceres squaring the nodes of the moon with Salacia on the North Node, and actually by that point Makemake will be on the South Node. That just feels like a very it's really drawing my attention next year in 2024, and it's something that I want to drop into layer by layer by layer by layer over the coming months, because I feel like there's so much richness there. But the same exact thing is being highlighted on this full moon, because again, Salacia moves very slowly, Quaoar moves very slowly, Pholus happens moving very slowly. It's at the part of its orbit where it's moving quite slowly, and it's in this very long-term conjunction with Quaoar and Ixion. They're essentially in a conjunction from this. Heather talks about this in her video, but I think it's essentially from 2008 until 2042. So it's a very, very long-term conjunction where they started out together in Sagittarius, and then they're traveling through all of Capricorn together, and then they will still be conjunct when they enter Aquarius, and then eventually they will then part their ways. But they're doing this whole travel together through Capricorn, and right now we have Pluto squaring the nodes of the moon in the very last degrees of Capricorn. So it's just a really fascinating energetic that I want to drop into, and that, is again highlighted on this full moon, and then will be highlighted again next year when the nodes of the moon are squaring this little trio. Okay, so let's drop into what all these energies are. And like I said, I really feel like it's a set of energies that is going to unfold its meaning and its potential over the coming months. And so I would love for this to be an open dialogue with you, and would love to hear your thoughts about what these energetics are, what they feel like for you. Yeah, and I'm gonna be dialoguing with other people about it. I'll be hopefully talking with Kelly Hunter about this later, and going to be meeting with various people and all of you, and those of you doing the Astrology 101 course with me next year. Hopefully we'll be able to dive into some of these things, and those of you in my membership, I'd love to dive into some of these things with you also. But just those of you watching this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And Yeah, so this is, to me, is like the beginning of a conversation, and I'm still personally feeling into and learning about each of these archetypes and deepening my own relationship and understanding with each of them. So essentially what I'm saying is, let's start. Okay. Okay, so core to this whole set of dynamics is this Quaoar Pholus Ixion dynamic and relationship. These three here that are together in Capricorn for quite a long time. I mean, many, many years they're sitting here in Capricorn together. So what does that mean? All right, I'm going to come out of share so I can just drop in with you. Okay. They're really fascinating to me. So start with Quaoar. Quaoar is, again, I'm just learning about it, and I'm not an expert, and I'm just going to drop into what I know and what it feels like in my being. Yeah, and what's coming up for me, on more of a spiritual level. So Quaoar, in terms of mythology and tradition and history, is a god associated with the Tongva people in the LA area, actually not very far from where I live. And in terms of what I have read about Quaoar, Quaoar is often referred to as he, but is actually not gendered. So what I understand is that Quaoar isn't necessarily female or male, maybe both, maybe non-binary, I don't know, but referred to as he typically. And the gist is that Quaoar is the creator god who sang life into existence. So there's this very deep, the way I feel that in my body, but again, I would love your reflections, your thoughts. The way I feel that in me is sort of similar to how I feel about Haumea, who has been on the south node of the moon for quite a while. It's like that energetic in our being that is deeper than anything that we could name in our logical brain. It's like the knowing of ourselves as the song of existence. So that's not so much Haumea, but Haumea, to me, Haumea births things from her whole being. So for me, Quaoar is that deep, always existent song, the reality that existence is a song. And that's actually in my Gaia Speaks book. Happens to be sitting right here. In this book, the subtitle is "You Are a Star, a Song, a Medicine. Remember with me." So in here, Gaia speaks a lot about ourselves as the song of existence, and Quaoar is this creator god, goddess, god being who sang everything into existence. So I feel that Quaoar energy as like I feel it here in my chest, like this like deep knowing of what it is to be that song of existence that is the perfect beauty and harmony of all of creation. Okay, so that's Quaoar and this teeny tiny gist of it. Again, this is like, I feel like this is layer number one, and over the next months, hopefully we can drop more deeply into it together as a collective. So that's Quaoar. 2, we have Ixion. And in Heather's video, she goes into the mythology behind Ixion. So I'll just give you the teeny tiny gist here. The big takeaway with Ixion is he did not good stuff. No, he made choices. He basically made a choice to repeatedly. He made choices to follow greed, follow his power as a patriarch, and ignore. He chose not to be in right relation with kind of anything. So the way Heather puts it is she feels like Ixion is a representation of, in a sense, patriarchy at its worst. And yeah, I mean, I again, this is another archetype I feel like I need to personally drop into more deeply to really, really get it where I'm coming from with it. But certainly I see it as a representation of the hurt, the pain that has been caused in our world by patriarchal choices that are very, very out of balance. And I certainly feel it also as a representation of, you know, how we can choose sometimes, even if we don't consider ourselves patriarchs, or, you know, maybe that's even totally against our value system. Like, I mean, I think it is for most of us. Yet there can be moments in our lives where we feel angry and we feel like we want what we want. And maybe we make choices based on that, right? There's probably been moments in our lives where we've done something like that. So it's not just to blame the patriarchy. It's also, it's like it's a representation of just that human nature, that part of human nature that can sometimes, that there is a path that you can choose when you're coming to a choice point, which we're all in. It's a choice point, right? And there's the path of love, and then there's the path of fear or anger, kind of imbalance. That's the way to put it. There's a choice of balance, and there's a choice that's off balance. And to me, the Ixion story is definitely very off balance. Okay, then number 3 is Pholus. Pholus is amazing. I love Pholus. I've been listening to Melanie Reinhardt's course with Astrology University on Pholus and Nessus, and yeah, there's just so much there, you know. And Melanie talks about Pholus and Nessus in a couple of her books also. So Pholus is one of the 4 main mentors, 4 main centaurs, maybe also a mentor, but centaur, along with Chiron, Cheroklo, and Nessus. And again, in a little nutshell, Pholus is very much related to ancestral healing. And I would say actually what I feel in it also is ancestral knowing, not only ancestral healing, but ancestral knowing, and a deep connection with ourselves as beings of earth. Because the centaurs are all half human, half horse, right? So they're, when I've dropped into channeling them, what I feel is my incredibly deep connection with earth, because the bottom, like the legs of the horse, you know, we're grounded when we're in that way of being. We're really grounded. We're super in touch with the reality that we are earth, which we all are as humans too. But the centaur energy for me is just very earth grounded. Melanie talks about that in the way she talks about the centaurs, for sure. Also, that's very alive for me in that archetype. Pholus also is so in terms of the ancestral healing, Pholus in particular has to do with this, with our relationship 4 generations back, and probably by implication 4 generations forward. Actually, Melanie doesn't really talk about that in her course, but I just sort of recognizing that. But I can just name, I mean, one thing that dawned on me in terms of my own Pholus in my own chart, I have Pholus conjunct my sun, like within less than a degree. It's very, very, very close to my sun. And I'm named after my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother, Martha. Yeah, fascinating. Because, you know, that's me, my dad, my dad's dad, my dad's dad, mom, 4 generations. I'm named after my great-grandmother. interesting. And Pholus is conjunct my sun in my 7th house in Pisces. So, okay. Yeah, fascinating. Okay, so, and then, yeah, and then the last thing that feels important about Pholus is Pholus also was a diviner. So Pholus was so Chiron was the wounded healer, right? He's one of the main, it's the most well-known centaur. Pholus wasn't the wounded healer. Pholus was, he would divine things. It was like he would not exactly channel, what's the word? He could see things. So, yeah, so there's this set of energies with Pholus, which again, I feel like this is layer number 1 and much more to come. But what I feel when I drop into Pholus kind of echoes what I feel in that Quaoar energy of Pholus helping us to come back into right relation with our wisdom of ourselves as Earth, wisdom of ourselves as our ancestry, wisdom of ourselves as beings, yeah, like the natural being that we are, and that beautiful natural wisdom that we have. Pholus, oh, the big thing that Melanie says about Pholus, which I didn't even mention, is the big theme with him is the lid comes off. So there can be, with Pholus, there can be the sense of things getting released that really needed to be released for whatever reason. And so if we combine Ixion, Pholus, and Quaoar, what I feel in that, the gist of what I feel in that is it's actually a really beautiful set of energies, specifically in Capricorn, where I feel this combination of both releasing, it's essentially the sense to me of releasing what is no longer serving us with regard to our past, the structures of our society, patriarchy, even our ancestry. Like, what do we need to get out? what is just not helping us right now or anymore, right? Let's let it go. And yet what's so beautiful and so cool, I feel like, about ancestry and about our natural way of being and our ancient way of being is that there's both a letting go and a reclaiming at the same time. So it's, it's really easy, I feel like, for us to say we're going to get rid of the Capricorn stuff, and yet at the same time we're actually wanting to come back to a lot of what we feel like we've lost. So those things in a sense can seem contradictory, and yet we know they're not, right? Like we're both letting go of what doesn't serve, and we're allowing back in so much ancestral knowledge, ancestral healing, ancestral body wisdom, DNA wisdom that's getting woken back up in us, and that we are coming back, like Quaoar, we're coming back into that reality that we are a song, that we are literally the song of existence, that our bodies know what that is to sing fully as us, to be fully as what we actually naturally are. So beautiful. I love it. Love it. So those three, Ixion, Pholus, and Quaoar, are, just, they're sitting together, and they're going to be sitting together from 2008 to 2042. So it's this really beautiful and interesting set of energies together. And that those three are going to be squared by the full moon and the sun on this full moon on September 29th, when the moon is at 6 degrees of Aries. The sun is at 6 degrees of Libra, and then they're going to be squared by the nodes of the moon a year from now. So again, this is like, I feel like this is like a taster of this energy. And then when they're squared by the nodes of the moon, that's deeply karmic. And I just feel so much being like it's an opportunity a year from now for so much to be released. Like let's let this out. And we're having a similar energy right now as Pluto is squaring the nodes of the moon, as Pluto is doing its dance between Capricorn and Aquarius. But it's a different energy that, you know, Pluto is a different quality. So there's something, yeah, again, it's I feel like there's layers more to be revealed in all of that. But I feel that energy, especially a year from now, when the nodes are squaring Quaoar, Ixion, and Pholus, like there's an opportunity for us to release in a way that's a little different than the Pluto version, and also for us to come back into a remembering of our ancestral DNA, you know, the benevolent, I feel like I want to throw that in, the benevolent healing version of our ancestral wisdom, and our ancestral, our deep body, earth, cosmos way of knowing that we haven't done in a really long time. Our ancient way of knowing we haven't done in a long time. And actually that's, you know, again, precisely what the Astrology 101 course that I'm going to be holding is all about. It's a portal of remembering. And yeah, I've said so much about it in other previous videos, but yeah, I just think it's amazing, beautiful timing that this transit is happening right when I'm called to hold that course for the whole year of 2024. So yeah. Okay, back to the full moon. And then so one more component I want to add in there is then Salacia is going to be conjunct the moon itself. And Salacia is another beautiful energy, Kuiper Belt object. So Salacia, again, the short version is she is the wife of Neptune. And she, again, go back to the video I recorded with Kelly Hunter, which I will link with this video to hear more. But the way Kelly often talks about Salacia is she's associated with the sparkles of the sea, the sparkles of light. So when I drop into Salacia, again, I feel like this is, you know, layer number 1, or maybe possibly layer 1.5 or something, because I've thought a little more about Salacia than I have about those other 3 I've talked to you about. But Salacia, yeah, to me, she's this beautiful energy that also helps us to come back to, in a sense, the essence of ourselves as light, and the essence of ourselves as beings of earth and spirit and ocean and water and crystalline light energy. And this so if Quaoar sings creation into existence, it's like Quaoar is the energetic that vibrates, right? Vibrates existence. And then Salacia is like, to me, she's like the light that manifests when the energetic of existence is taking form. And she's associated with the salt in the sea. So to me, she's really associated with like form taking, light taking form in crystalline, how do I put this? The combination of light and earth, which light and earth together can form crystals, essentially, right? And so I feel Salacia as being both light and yet embodied. And Quaoar is like the vibration of song that helps create form that is then embodied. So there's a dance between those two that's really beautiful and really interesting, and they are squaring each other, actually, for probably quite a while. I haven't looked at their relationship, but because they both move really slowly, they probably actually are squaring each other for quite a while. Yeah. Okay. And then the very last thing I'm going to say is, so the thing that's really getting highlighted in this full moon in general, again, is this Libra Aries axis. And when we go into that Libra Aries axis, it's really easy to polarize it. Like any polarity, it's easy to polarize it. It's easy to say, you know, like with with Libra and Aries, I either want to be in relationship or I want to be alone. I either am going to get lost in thinking about the needs of other people, or I'm going to be narcissistic and only think about the needs of myself. Clearly that's extreme and we don't want to do that. But it's easy to feel like, with the Aries, strong Aries energy, to feel angry, to feel like we need to, in order to get our own needs met, we need to push away others, or we need to get, you know, pissed off and say, you know, no. I was thinking worse words than that, but you get my idea. Or to like to do a sort of imbalanced Libra thing and give up all my needs and yeah, just be really out of balance and forget about my own needs, etc. Okay. So I think one of the things that we are being really supported to do during this whole time that the nodes are in Aries and Libra, and, you know, certainly coming up in these eclipses where the Aries Libra axis is being highlighted also, and I'll say more about that moving forward. But it's also being highlighted in this full moon for sure, is that there's, of course, a way to do the Libra Aries thing that's in balance and that's not polarized, and that finds the beauty, like the truth. Like, what is the true song of Aries in particular? Because I feel like the Aries energy is what's getting particularly highlighted here. So I think in the time of this full moon, it could be especially easy to feel anger or to feel irritation or to feel like, just give me freedom, like leave me alone, especially also because Venus will be conjunct Juno and will be in its third square to Uranus. So that's another energy to be very, very alive of, I need my space. I need freedom. I don't want to do this whole relationship thing in this way or whatever it is. And that there definitely might be truth in that and wisdom in that. And yet there's something about the Quaoar energy, the Salacia energy, even the Pholus energy, and the Pholus, you know, near Ixion, helping us to release our old patriarchal ways of being in relationship, being, you know, getting our needs met or not getting our needs met. There's something about, in this full moon energy, helping us to come back to the essence of the true song of who we are, and that we can rest in ourselves in a way that feels really quiet. That's what I feel in my body. That feels really deeply quiet and still, and like it just is. And so we can you know, eventually come into this place in ourselves, this Aries energy that's in balance with the Libra energy, that is fully aware of, what do I need? What is my actual truth? I can just be. It's very, very, very beautiful, most positive, productive Aries way of being, where I can just be me without needing to, you know, no excuses, no explanation, no guilt, just I am me. And this is the song of me. And this is the vibration of me. And this is me as a being of light and a being of earth. And I just am. That's Aries. Like, I just am. And then when we get really clear and still in that way of being, then we can do the Libra dance and the Libra song. And the Libra is all about harmony and relating, but again, not getting lost, right? Like, so it's like, I feel like there's something so beautiful in the potential of this energetic of this full moon to help us practice. What's the song of me? Like, what's the song of creation, Quaoar, and that beautiful shimmering light crystalline being, Salacia, is me, where I can get it, I can feel it in myself on this deep, still level. And I can just rest there and I can just be. And then it's like if I can get into that still place, then the Libra stuff almost can do its own dance, can do its own thing, because I don't need to get caught up in the polarity of it, because I'm so still and at peace in my Aries way of being, that then the balance of the Libra and the relating and the harmonizing with the song of other things can become so much more easy, right? Like, it's much easier to, if you've sung in harmony in like a choir, it's so much easier to keep to be in that harmony in the song when you are calm and just loving your own being, your own part, yet you're also in tune. You can just be calm and in your own part of the song, and yet you can be listening and in tune and aware and in empathy, in a sense, with the other beings, the other parts of the song, the other harmonies going on around you. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. So I actually think this, this full moon has a lot of energies in it that could be considered potentially pretty difficult or challenging. Sure. and I think this is another level to it, and another really, really beautiful set of energies. And again, I feel like this is a part one to so much to come next year. And yeah, so I would love your thoughts, love your reflections. And that's all for now. Yeah. And next week, Tuesday, September 19th, I am going to be co-hosting a free live and recorded eclipse panel discussion with Jonathan Coe, Verena Burrell, Jordan Smith, and Michelle Dench. So please register for free. We would love to have you there live. If you can't be there live, still register. We will send out the recording to everybody who's registered. So if you want to be sure to get that recording and or be there live, we would love it. And we will take questions ahead of the panel. So get on the list, and I will be sending out a request for questions, and I would love to hear those questions, and we would love to have you there. And then I also have 2 workshops coming up, which I will link here and I will say more about soon. And yeah, beautiful. Email me anytime, livingtheonelight@gmail.com. And find everything on my website, livingtheonelight.com. Okay, very good. See you soon.